This episode is brought to you by Sortly. If you're growing your interior design business, then you know tracking inventory across projects, warehouses, and team members can slow you down. That's where Sortly comes in.
Sortly helps you manage furniture, decor, and materials effortlessly from any device, anywhere. Simplify your installs with barcode scanning and real-time updates, making it easy to export details for client proposals.
Sortly is the mobile inventory solution that your team will actually use, so you can stop losing time and money on messy spreadsheets and outdated systems.
Hot Young Designers Club listeners get 50% off their first year, plus a free 14-day trial. Sign up today at sortly.com/HYDC.
That's sortly.com/HYDC.
Hey guys, we're trying something a little bit different this week. We're going to just pop on here and, oh, you hate it when I say pop on.
I'm about to pop off when you pop on.
But we just want to open the show with a little more of a timely update because usually we're recording in advance.
Yeah. So what's going on with Hot Young Designers Club?
Yeah.
You are probably planning for your spring market. If you're going to High Point in April, we will not be at spring market, but we love following all your adventures.
Yes. And so you can listen to last week's episode. We talked about High Point, or last episode. 139, we talked about our tips and tricks for High Point if you haven't been before.
Yeah.
And we hope to be there in the fall, though.
Yeah, stay tuned on that. Over on the blog, we've had a lot of really great designer submissions with their projects for our designer features that are over there.
I know, and I feel like it's been really great for designers that haven't been published a lot. Like, I haven't been published a lot. Like, to have a project that you can really kind of talk a lot about versus just like a random photo here and there. So please always submit those to us. We're always needing them, and we love to see them.
Yes.
So that's on the blog, and there's a spot to submit in our Instagram profile, right? And if you go to one of the last posts, you can scroll down to the bottom. At least I know there's a submission button.
Yep. If you go to any designer feature, there's at the bottom of every one, you can put your own in there for us.
And what else? Anything else going on?
I don't know. We've got a really big roster of guests coming up this season. Like, we've planned out more of our guest episodes than we have our own episodes with just you and I. So I'm really excited about the roster of guests coming up.
Yeah, so this episode you're about to listen to with Caroline Turner, like, you guys, she tells it like it is, and we love her for it. Like, the tea is hot with her.
The tea is hot. The gasps that we gasped. Oh my God.
Know.
You guys are going to love it. So definitely enjoy this one.
And we'll talk a lot about her own podcast where you can listen to more of it. So please listen in and let us know what you think.
All right. Thanks, hotties. Hey, hotties. We have way more for you over on the Hot Young Designers Club blog.
It's kind of like having an internet home base that we've been wanting to start.
Yeah, we're over there doing designer features, sharing industry news, and some business updates.
We've always wanted to be able to share our inspiration, so we needed a long-form place to do it, and now we have it.
You got it. So head to hotyoungdesignersclub.com and check out the blog. Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Sean Surha, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young,
but we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Rebecca?
Today, we have a very fun guest. We have Caroline Turner of Caroline Turner Interiors, and she has a great podcast, Confessions of an Interior Designer. Hi, Caroline.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for coming. We've been chasing you.
Finally, I found time to sit down. So yeah, I'm excited.
So we have a lot to talk about, I feel like. I went on this deep binge of your show a couple of weeks ago, and I kept pinging Sean oh my God, you have to listen to this. So.
She's sending me go to this minute mark and listen to this. And then I'm
that's the best thing I've ever heard. So
in the car ride, go over to that.
Scrubbing to try to find.
Okay, well, we'll get into it. I have things to say, obviously, but
Yeah.
tell us first, like, just kind of give us the overview of who you are, what you do, where you are.
Quick and dirty. So I'm Caroline Turner. I own Caroline Turner Interiors in Chicago. We work all over the country, which has been so fun and such a, I was going to say blessing. That's not really my vibe, but it's been,
Bless.
lots of gratitude for that because it's so fun. I like to work in different climates and different historical places all over the US. So it's been really great. I've had the business for almost 6 years, which I can't even believe.
Wow.
There are 4 of us that work full time, and then we have some other people that sort of supplement where needed. So we're a small but mighty team. And then I started Confessions of an Interior Designer in November of 2024, which was just kind of something that had been living in my brain for a while. And I thought, you know what? Let's try it. How hard can it be? It can be really hard. Turns out it can be really, really hard.
Yeah. Men do
But
it. How
worth
hard
it.
can it be?
Oh
No,
my God.
literally, how hard can it be? Boys do it was my motto this whole entire thing. And yeah, turns out they must have a woman helping them behind the scenes because I didn't understand.
Yes.
It's hard to explain the amount of just like, it's not hard work necessarily. It's just there's a lot of
work.
minutia and
Yeah.
like parts to like keep it moving.
There's a lot of
And
pieces.
yeah. And, it's the tech piece that really I struggle with because that's the piece that you can't control. And so,
Yeah.
but, I won't bore everyone with the details. But yes, it's been really fun. We're wrapping up season 1 and then we'll take a couple months break and then we'll be back for season 2. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to talk more about that, but let's talk first about your design business
Journey.
So,
sure.
Yeah. So you have 4, you said. Are they full time?
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What's their roles? Yeah.
So there's myself, which I'm considered owner and principal designer. So I'm on every project and, obviously the buck stops with me on everything. And then I have a project coordinator / like kind of the full back half of my business. Samantha, she lives in LA and she works with Christy in her office and they do everything after we have presented to a client and it's approved. So everything gets handed to them. They then do all the expediting, the ordering, everything. It is incredible. I never really know anything.
Goals.
So Sam is the one that he really, and I mean, she's been with me since I started the company. And then 6 months later, I hired her as a 10-hour-a-week virtual assistant. And she's now been with me for over 5 years. And I mean, I tell her every day I'd be dead in a ditch without her. And I mean that so literally. I'm just, I feel like when you are drawn to interior design, at least as like the principal, the owner, as you guys know, you're not wanting to do the back end stuff. You're wanting to design and talk to clients and do the fun piece of it. And so I've been lucky enough to find someone who really excels at the back end. And she's kind of my muscle. Like if there's an issue, she's the one that emails. So it works for us because we get to play good cop, bad cop, which is, and she kind of thinks it's fun to play bad cop. So it works out. And then, so Christy works with her and she's really the one that helps like facilitate all of that and does the physical ordering. And then I have Grace and Gracie, which is very confusing and not on purpose, in my office. They are both considered junior designers. I would say, so Gracie's been with me for 4 years. Her 4 years was just last week. And she's really my right-hand woman in the Chicago office. We've kind of grown up together and she's incredible. And then we hired Grace about 8 months ago or so. She was our intern and then she came on full time and she just graduated, but she is whip smart and it's so narcissistic to say, reminds me of me when I was younger, but I feel that she's got it. I mean, Gracie does too. So I've been and they're just fun. We have the best time. We were just in Charleston and our client was like, I could hear y'all giggling from 3 doors down because we really are having a good time. So it makes my job a lot easier. And I want to go into the office. I want to see them. It's very strange. And I would never, even though we're so close, I would never say we're a family because I think that's so manipulative. But I really do. I love them like they're my little sisters and I still have to be their boss. But because we're such a small team, we've gotten so close, which has been really one of the highlights of this career for me.
It's like such a fan. I mean, I know it's not, I'm sure it's not all rainbows and unicorns. I know how it is. Like, you have teams and you got to get stuff going,
Sure.
and there's all of that. But it is really nice to hear about the dynamic that you have with the juniors, and that you're able to offload and delegate the stuff that would probably stress you out the most. Like, that's
We
definitely
just
worthy.
split it up that Gracie has 4 projects, Grace has 4 projects, I'm on all 8, and Samantha's on all 8. And
Okay.
that has changed my life. Like, when I tell you they are the ones that now know everything about the project, they ask me what they need from me so I can focus on everything else. I can't even describe how much it's changed everything for me. Before that, we were really like all on every project, all doing everything whenever something needed to be done. And it's clear to me that they're also a lot happier because they get this sort of like sense of ownership over the project. The clients know who's delegated for each project. They also seem to be happier with this arrangement because they know Gracie's my girl. If I can't get in touch with Caroline or whatever, I go to Gracie. She will know the answer to my question just as much as Caroline would know the answer to my question. Whereas before, that wasn't always true because I felt like I had to be in charge of everything and, you know, the whole thing. I think obviously that comes with like trusting your people and comes with mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, by giving them that ability, they are going to fuck up. And
Yeah.
I have to know that. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had to eat things or things have happened, but in order for them to want to confide in me and know they can tell me things when things go wrong, I can't be mad about that. Like, that is just part of this. And by taking on more responsibility, inherently they're taking on more risk. But if I were to turn around and punish them for that risk, why would they want to do this? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, being able to give them all that responsibility, but them not feeling like they can't sleep at night because they are like actually responsible if something goes wrong. I think finding that middle ground has been really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you want them to feel a little bit responsible, but not that they actually are going to get fired or something.
Not that they're like financially responsible. And they
yeah.
already sort of feel this, I can tell this very heavy sense of personal responsibility just because we've all been together. I mean, they know how much money's in our bank account, like if they want to know. Like, I'm very, very transparent. They know how much money I make in comparison to how much money they make. Like, I've always said, when I get rich, you get rich. Like, we are essentially profit sharing. And I realize a lot of people are going to hear this and be like, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, you're not supposed to do that. That's not how this works. But it's how it works for me.
Okay. Do you think, I'm always just intrigued and just seeing like, you're Gen Z, right?
I'm actually a millennial. I'm 30.
Oh, are you? Okay. So you're probably,
but I'm like a little bit cuspy. Yeah.
And I just feel like I'm so interested to see, like, I'm Gen X and I'm like not borderline boomer, but definitely like boomer adjacent to where that's where my bosses were boomers, you know? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Those are the people you were trained by. Exactly.
Yes. And parented by. So I feel like that is just totally taboo. Everything is so like hierarchical. And I don't agree with it. Like, I'm not saying like I think that's the right way at all. But I'm just so intrigued by how like future generations are like taking these really like traumas that like I've endured in past jobs that we all have. And like, how can we actually make these functional businesses that everyone's still successful and it's still like profitable and you're, you know, doing all the things you have to do, but still, like kind of celebrate transparency. And it's a new way of them having skin in the game, I think.
Yes, it absolutely. I mean, I will tell you, I have never had to force them to care about how the business is doing. They also like have ridden out the waves with me a lot. Like Gracie and Samantha in particular have always been like my skeleton crew. Like if we lose business or something happens, they're never going anywhere. And I mean, Grace now too, but before that, it was really just the two of them. And so they saw when like I was dipping into my personal savings account to pay them. They saw when like I took a loan on personal assets in order to be able to make. So that piece of it, I didn't have to ask them to care. They just do.
Like, and it's giving them respect from an early time that I think like everything else is a little patronizing and like, I can't like have you know this information.
Which it's honestly better for me. And I will say, I've had some people say, but don't you feel like you're putting a lot on your employees? And I would say, sure. But the way that we talk about it is never, you're in jeopardy of losing your job. This is happening. This is happening. It's always, guys, here's what's happening. I'm going to figure it out because I always do. And that's my job. But if I'm not paying for lunch every day in the next couple months, that's why. Or if we're not doing like a celebratory thing, that's why. So that way and you know, they've said to me, we're never worried that we're going to go out of business. We know that it's like an ebb and a flow. And I think because they've known when we almost did and that we didn't, that gave, no, but like actually a couple times in my career, I've had to really be like, okay, so do I take out a second more? Like, what do I do in order to keep this afloat? One job can, you know, one of your clients can hit a bad deal and a job that was a $3 million job gets pulled out from under you. And you're like, well, I had to turn all those other people away. What do we do now?
Now what? Yeah.
And so we've been able to mitigate that with a wait list, which has just been like, can't tell you for how many years waitlist was the number one goal on my list, like over profitable, over anything else, because the idea that I didn't know where our next job was coming from made me so anxious. And so now that we have people that are willing to wait and we know, like, you know, if something happens, we have someone else, it has made that a lot easier to bear. And I think a lot easier to make decisions down the line. Like, I know that we're not in jeopardy of not having a client.
Okay, so let's talk about that because, yes, that's definitely goals. How do you communicate that to clients and how long are they okay, like, waiting, do you think?
This will shock you. Like it's fucking clickbait. Sorry. No, but it has been genuinely shocking to me how long people are willing to wait. And it's like when you're dating and you say, actually, like, sorry, I'm not really that interested. And then they start chasing you. It's the same exact thing. So in our experience, if the project well, first of all, I'll say TikTok is the reason for the wait list, period.
Okay.
So that's number one. Number two, when we have people reach out, we always, if it seems like it's going to make sense, we send them our onboarding. We have a minimum investment per project that is required with us. It used to be required of the whole job. Now that's not the case. And so like we have $150,000 minimum to even like, you have to be willing to spend $150,000 with us in order for it to make sense for us. So
is that design fee and
yes.
product or just design fee?
Design fee and product, but if yes, that's just though, like if we're doing furniture, obviously if there's construction, then we go a lot higher than that, but $150,000 is the minimum they have to be willing to spend to like make this make sense. And then if they agree to that, we get on the phone and then I talk through everything with them. I typically will start with, you know, here's who we are, explain. Here's where we're at in our timeline. Or depending on the project, I'll be like, are you looking to start in the next 6 to 8 months? Are you looking to start right now? And then I kind of feel out how they are. I will say I've tried to do some education around clients reaching out sooner than they think they need to. And because of that, it does seem that people are reaching out on the earlier side, which then almost naturally creates like not a wait list, but that they don't really need us until we're ready for them because the timing just works out.
In the queue,
Exactly. But we have had clients where, you know, maybe it's not like the job, I'm excited about it, but it's not like gonna make $1 trillion. And so I know that I can't fit it in somewhere or I can't hire in order to take it on. So then it has to obviously go on the wait list. And so when that happens, we're typically we're far enough in that they have decided they want to work with us. So we've done all of the education around who we are, blah, blah, blah. In the onboarding, I'll typically say we are currently booked through the end of the year. We're currently booked through this next 6 months, whatever. But you never know what will fall through. So we'll put you on our list and you'll be the first, the second, the third, wherever they are on the wait list. But know that like we could reach out at any point. And this literally just happened. We actually had a client in San Francisco that waited on their own 8 months for us. And then we started the project again. They started getting bids and the amount of money that they're charging in San Francisco is like genuinely criminal.
Yep.
And so they're like, we actually don't know if we're going to be able to do what we want to do. And when she emailed me and basically said, we need to pull back on all of this scope, I was able to go back to her and be like, I've loved working with you guys, but we can't keep this project with this level of scope. And so we had a really great, like the easiest client breakup I've ever had in my life. And frankly, it was because I caught it early enough. Like even a year ago, I would have let it go a little bit longer and we would have gotten to the point where I couldn't step away easy enough.
Do you
and it's
think
like painful?
Do you think that's because
More
you've
painful.
like looked at your actual minimums and what you require, so you recognized it earlier, or
Yes,
is it
and
just you
also,
having better boundaries?
I've just gotten better at knowing, like when clients start to pull back on things or get scared in the schematic process, it's not probably going to go well for the rest of the job.
Sure.
And we like to say we're good stewards of our clients' money, and we like for clients to tell us the overall budget and then we manage it within that. Clients really like that because I know if we should spend more on plumbing than we should on something else, whereas they have all these preconceived notions that they want a Julian Chichester fucking case piece, but then they want like Etsy plumbing, and you're like, let's get our priorities in the right order. You know, like they don't know what they don't know until you're like, just give me the total and let me handle it.
Yeah.
So by knowing that information, I was able to be like, there's no way. Like, there's just no way. And so when I said to her, pretty frankly, I was just like, I'm very sorry. This is not going to work for us. And she was like, I understand. Thank you for saying that. And so it was which the other thing I should say is I've tried to do this before and I have literally had clients say, no, you can't fire me. So like, it doesn't always go that way. I'm making it sound really, really like easy. That was the easiest one. And I really think it's because she was relieved. Like, obviously, if
let
you're
her
now
off the
not
hook.
sure. Yes, exactly. The short answer is I let her off the hook, which I think she felt good about. So that was, but yeah, we've literally had clients say, no, we're not. We're going to stay together. And we're like,
Did it work out? Like, are you glad
course
they
not.
did?
I mean, no, of course not. I've had a couple of times where we held on because I was like, they are going to try to sue us just for the sake of trying to sue us, even though they don't have a case. So let's just finish the job.
Can we just
like,
get done and get out of here, please? Like,
I've been able to like give it to my junior designer and be like, just finish it how they want. And we won't ever take photos. Like, we don't really care. So it kind of depends on the client and how dramatic they're going to be, I would say.
I have another thought when you were talking about that. So do you have a certain number of certain size projects that you do, like new builds or whole house reno versus like a few full rooms?
I don't hold any like spots in our calendar for it or anything. So it's not like I'll be like, oh, well, I want to make sure we get one big job here. But generally speaking, we're only doing whole homes right now, just because everything else, well, I should say, because we have enough work that we can just do whole homes right now. We may go back down to not full homes, like with the economy and everything. Like, we just ride the wave when and if we can, basically. I'm trying to do more hospitality and commercial just because I love it. I worked for Kelly Wearstler for a while and just like really fell in love with hospitality design, specifically Kelly Wearstler's version of hospitality design, which is a whole different animal. But that really, like, I caught the bug when I did that. So we're working on a hospitality forward med spa, which has been super fun. And then we're doing a new build that we actually got brought in halfway. Another designer got fired. Which was crazy. It's the biggest job we've ever done. It's 10,000 square feet. It is a monster. And then, so like we do have, here's what I'll say. We have whole homes, but all of different sizes. I also have a Charleston project that the whole thing is probably maybe 2,000 square feet. Everything's being redone, but like the unit itself is very small. So if I can sink my teeth in and do the whole thing, I don't care like the actual size of the project.
Got it.
If they're willing to pay for us, because like obviously some jobs that are smaller, they're not willing to pay for 30, 40, 50, 60, $100,000 in billable hours when it's, a 2,000 square foot
it doesn't
condo or something.
that won't make sense for their investment.
Exactly. And sometimes I will say that to them, like, this doesn't make sense. You'll never get your money back out. So let's wait. And then if you buy a bigger project, call me.
Yeah, I feel like I've had those conversations with a couple other designers where I'm like, these are people who probably shouldn't have hired me. But they're like,
Yes.
we value your expertise and your advice, and we really want this, and this is the most we're ever going to spend in our home. And I'm like,
yep.
I love that for you. It's just like me coming from like my finance background. I'm like, you probably shouldn't have done this, but also I'm here to be hired to make money. Like that, my job is to sell myself for that.
We're not doing this for free or for fun. Yeah, definitely not.
But I'm just like, objectively, this was probably not the best way to spend your money.
But
like,
going back to being a good steward, like that, to your point about being a good steward of clients' money, I mean, that goes to that where like you realize like, oh, well, I'm not going to fire myself at this point, but
maybe we should. I mean, I'm certain other designers have probably felt the same way. We've had clients where I'm like, are they going to be able to pay us? Like, are they going to be able to finish this? Because people just get in over their heads and they'll, get in bed with a bad contractor or something will be promised to them. We see that a lot being brought in halfway, and a lot. I shouldn't say that. We've been brought in halfway at this scale one time, but I was shocked at how much the other designer had no idea what was going on with the money, to the point where like it was a lot of things were too far gone. Like a lot of things were too far gone that should have been caught. So we're millions of dollars over budget because of things that should have been caught in the beginning.
So because of that, you felt okay. Like sometimes I think coming into a project that a designer was let go on can be like a red flag, just alert. Like
absolutely can be a red flag. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you were able to figure that out.
It was a big consideration for me when we first got brought on. I'd spoken to the client who found me on TikTok, and like she's a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. She's a badass. I had never worked with just a woman who was like at that high net worth level. And so that was interesting to me. I had a mom that worked all growing up. And so I felt like I know how to talk to her and I know how to, and I'm young and like a little scrappy. The other designer was older, had been in the industry for a long time, clearly like did things a certain way. This client, even though she's a Fortune 500 CEO, or maybe because of, she's very discerning. And so she felt like things were being spent in weird ways, or maybe the designer just didn't have like the breadth that they needed to have for this like level of project. And so when I was looking at the hard surfaces, docs, the plumbing, it was very clear to me that in my opinion, it was phoned in. Whether it was or not to that designer's level, I have no idea, but they shouldn't have been on the project. She's definitely probably going to hear this, and that's okay. We've had a conversation about it.
We're not naming any names.
No. And
I have no idea who you're talking about.
She called me after she heard through the grapevine I got the job. Like we've had a full like conversation about it. So this isn't anything she hasn't heard, but it has been the biggest learning experience of my entire career, to be brought on with an architect that we did not hire or have anything to do with, to like massive amounts of teams, like the amount of people that are just on this project unnecessarily. So all of those things I've been able to like slowly streamline in my way. And I do think that has, and to answer your question, yes, it was very clear that there was room for improvement on the design side. So I didn't automatically think this is a client problem.
Yeah.
It was more, I think it was just like not right. They weren't right for the job.
Sometimes it's not a good fit. Like, I mean, I've done it, but not taken over a project, but known the last designer wasn't rehired basically. And looking after like meeting the client, I'm like, oh, this just wasn't a good fit, like style wise or whatever.
Personalities just don't mesh. And I am a kind of difficult personality. So I tend to be like a whisperer for other difficult personalities. And so.
Okay, I'm with you. Yes.
I mean, love you, Dad, but I grew up with a dad with a difficult, you know what I mean? Like both my parents are attorneys. So like I'm good at getting what I want and like being able to talk to other people about what they want. Like that is one of my superpowers, I would say.
Yeah. Like you could steer a ship and then I think that transparency. Yeah. Okay.
Depends on the day, how well I can steer the ship.
Well, sure. We can't all control everything, although we really
Even though I
want to
really
try.
want to.
I really do want to.
That's all I want.
So I want to talk about TikTok
Let's
because
do
that's
it.
how we first found you. And like, I'm like, oh, this is like a real
Crazy.
designer on TikTok, which there's a lot of non-real designers on there, and some of them are like
no
great
tea, no
and-
shade, but also all tea, all shade. Like when you, I'm like, but are they? Do they really know
There's
what they're?
room for everyone, but not everyone should call themselves an interior designer.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Like we have personalities on there. We have great opinionators,
Sure,
and then we have all kinds of $100. Like here, I can do your whole room for $100. Like
and applauding to them. Like good for you. I can't.
There's one that Sean and I have like pinpointed that she's like throwing designers under the bus, which is like, this is a way why I hire a expensive designer when I'll do it all for.
I will say I've seen that positioning, and that positioning to me is going to come back to bite them.
For sure.
Yeah, it just feels very distasteful to like
entire industry.
Yeah, like go against your own people.
A whole group of people.
And I've only found that as a designer, I have only felt more uplifted by designers. I have
1000%.
never felt the better version of myself than I have when I am with other designers.
A group of designers. I completely agree.
And it's just like, what a shame that you can't see that, like, you're not going to get as far as you think by putting the rest of designers down or saying they're ripping people off or whatever. Like, there's no like Robin Hood movement you're going to get out of this.
That's bad juju. Like,
yeah.
The karma is not one that I would want to take on.
Hey, designers. In our jobs, we wear a lot of hats, but there is a big difference between having ideas and then the reality of actually putting these ideas into practice.
Yeah, totally. That's why when we developed the tools that worked for our businesses, we wanted to share them with other designers so they could grow too.
And since we're all busy, we made sure everything was ready to use to save you time.
And our templates include expertly crafted copy that can get you started when you're trying to write the right words for all your clients.
Yeah, so we didn't write your bio because we can't, but things that are process-oriented, we have all that written out for you.
Right. And we wanted to keep everything in a price point that's very accessible to designers of all levels because we really believe that everybody should be able to afford to streamline their business and make it better.
So if you're a first-time visitor, you get 10% off on our shop at shop.hotyoungdesignersclub.com.
Also, anyone who says that this job is easy doesn't do our job.
No.
Right? Like if you think an interior designer's job is easy, you don't actually know what an interior designer does. Because
100%.
I have friends who will, real jobs just like mine. And they're like, I can't believe the amount of conversations you have to have with grown men every day being like, you can't treat me that way. You can't, the thousands of things we have to deal with.
Yes.
Like every job, but to come from a DIYer and be like, well, you're wasting your money. Okay, babe, let's let them give you the job and see if then they think it's a waste of money or not. Because guarantee you can't do it. Guaranteed.
It's a lot of work.
Anyone who doesn't have a client that they have sold a project to, gotten the finances together, sold the budget to, then sold each individual item, like it's such a different thing than working on your own home where you can have all these ideas in the world, but that's the whole AI people that are selling their renderings on AI and calling that their inspo. Like
we just talked about this on my podcast too. Okay, so I'm going to use like a couple code words, but you guys will definitely know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
A very, 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 very famous female tennis player who also works in this industry created an app with a company, and it is AI, and it is billed to other designers somehow, but I was approached to sell my work to them, sell my rights to them. So then their AI can take my work, rip it apart, and give it to other people.
What?
And I got on the phone with her. So like very starstruck. We're on Zoom. I'm looking at her in the face and I'm like, you're going to dismantle our entire industry. Like, you actually really can't do this. Like, this is so nuts. And that was almost 2 years ago. It was supposed to launch like 3 months after that. I have yet to see it launch, but I like kind of do a little bit live in fear of that moment that the designers who are not doing as well sell their work and then we're fucked. Like, the only way that that doesn't happen is if we essentially create a union and like all agree together
Protect ourselves.
that we
Yeah.
are not ever going to be selling our intellectual property, because what happens is the AI then takes it and can learn from your work and then churn out not your work, but what looks like a completely different designer's work who's not real. Like, it's not even the concern that the AI is going to take my exact image and copy it, because no one wants that image already exists. They're
Right.
going to learn like our ability to understand scale and shape and color, and all of that will then be turned into what like your layperson could go and be like, this is what I want my room to look like.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I'm not worried that I'm never going to have clients. The clients who are hiring us now are never going to be the ones that use AI.
Like an
But
app.
it feels like they're billionaires, multimillionaires are not going to be like, let me design my house on an app. That's just not ever going to happen.
No.
But it does change our industry pretty dramatically. I mean, we saw it from even like HGTV and the lack of realistic anything in that. Like, we're gonna renovate a house in 3 days. It will be $30,000 and then you're done. Like,
Right.
that was the
Never.
start. And now we're like, oh, a computer can do this. Why would we pay you anything? It's just like they're attempting to diminish every piece of this industry when it sounds douchey, but at the end of the day, like, we are artists. We're trying to create art that you get to exist in and experience.
Yeah.
And that's not something that we should be hoping a computer can do for us.
I mean, I know. And it's going to hit every single industry. Like, everyone's going to be affected.
Of course.
And I don't know the future of humanity, but I just keep coming back to like, it has to be service that we're selling. And I mean, that's where like the bespoke and like hand quality of products
Absolutely.
that we sell, like, that's the service version of it. I think like where people are it's gonna also be a little bit of like a flex if, ooh, I hired a human.
I think you're
Had
right.
a real
I think you're right.
person.
Yeah.
I have enough money that I hired a real person. Yeah, which is very dystopian. But
I know. I can't imagine what that world looks like, and I don't even want to. So
I know. I'm sorry. I took us down an AI
Oh no,
route, but I do think
I'm
it's
in this
interesting.
path too, though, for sure.
I think it's really interesting because AI, I don't think is inherently evil. And I think there's ways that it can be used in our business, but not on the like one thing that we do best, which is the physical design side.
right. And I think the something that I think will still always be hard is extracting what's in somebody's head that they cannot
Yes.
articulate. Like, our clients can't actually articulate what they like. And I think that's the part that I think will always be hard.
And I
For
do
that- for
understand
not
that
us.
like point of view of, well, if you could just type in a couple of words and have AI make an image that's in your head that you're trying to show your client, wouldn't that help you sell it? And it's like, yes, in some arenas, yes. But in my opinion, you're really then letting the computer do most of the designing, because like
Yeah.
we use a lot of 3D models, and like I end up designing the spaces a ton while I'm working with the girls on their 3D models, because we're like
Yeah, so do
making
I.
design decisions as you do it. Whereas if you're like, I want a moody green library, and then it like designs something for you, you might be like, oh, I would have never thought of that library letter. Oh, I never would have thought of XYZ, when like that's really kind of your whole job.
Right.
Right.
It's like designing. I'm often making design decisions as I'm finessing the space plan, and I'm like, oh wait, now we need a built-in that I didn't think was going to be there before, but now this makes sense. So now we need to work on built-in design, and that requires us to change from a sectional to a sofa or vice versa. Like those things.
And maybe this needs to move here, and actually remember that we had lights here; those were going to have to move. Like all of that is our job.
It reminds me of, okay, this is going to be a weird illusion, so stick with me for a second. Analogy, I should say. I put my sugar cubes into a container for my coffee and my tea, and they come in like a little box. I just prefer the cubes, whatever. So
Sure.
when I put them into this container, it's like a rectangular container that you reach in the top, pull the lid off, whatever. When you first put them all in there, they're like a big jumble and they're all over the place. But what's funny is they seek to be organized, and when you shake and jiggle the container a little bit, they fall into perfect grids. So my friends will be like, "Oh my God, that must be so annoying. Did you put those in there all?" I'm like, no, I dump them in and then I jiggle the container and they naturally find themselves back in a grid. And that to me is how sometimes design comes together, is they all fall together perfectly. We just need to know how much and where to jiggle it together. And then all the pieces will drop in the way they're supposed to.
I love that.
It will happen organically. They want, like, rooms and spaces sometimes want to have that focal point is meant to be there. That is meant to be that opening, that size of something. Like, it's meant to find something natural in itself sometimes. It's really weird.
I completely agree. And that's like the part that's so fun. My team and clients make fun of me because I get legitimate chills, like actual chills on my body that you can see when I feel like what you exactly just said. I pictured it as Tetris and it all like locking together and being perfect. When everything comes into that moment, it is like a visceral feeling for me. And there's, oh my God, there's nothing better. Like, that's why we do this job, right? Oh, I love it.
And
You
the
live for
magic
those
of it all,
moments.
like,
yeah, absolutely.
I always leave room for magic in my projects because I do think I will stumble upon something. Like, and that's where I try to bring in vintage or things that are like usually on the accessory or art level, but like you just don't know what you're going to find that's going to be, oh, I didn't seek that out, but it found me somehow and it made the room or made the whole project. And I think you have to have that like stumble upon like
completely.
room.
That's what makes it so different and special and not like AI churned it out. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
I'm not against the AI of it all, but it definitely is one of those things where it's going to force designers to have to, like, you're going to have to pick a side. You're going to have to decide, unfortunately, like, where are you going with this? Are there going to be some entry-level projects that maybe aren't out there anymore for new designers when they first are starting out? Like, yeah, there's a potential for that. There's going to be some of those people who are really motivated by using AI design tools, but they were likely the people who were already on Pinterest thinking they could do it or somewhere else. Like, I do feel like there's been like a little bit of a democratization of design, almost, of like, it's for everyone. And my mind keeps moving on it a little bit. I'm like, I actually don't know if it is for everyone. I don't know if it really is. Would it be great for everyone? Yes. Does great design benefit everyone? Absolutely. Is hiring a designer really going to be the goal for everyone? No.
Yeah, hiring a designer is not for everyone.
No.
Design, I think, is for everyone. And I think there's ways that we can have, like, thank you, Target, for making design accessible for a lot of people. But that there's not a designer in the midst of that.
I think that everyone should have the ability and tools to make their personal home beautiful if they do not have the resources to hire someone. However, them making other spaces that they're not qualified to do, that's when I get a little like, we should potentially leave this to the professionals, because then like all the details are removed and you can't undo it. And I think that's happening less and less, but I don't know, with social media, there are designers who are like very well known that don't know how to do AutoCAD. And I know because I worked for them. Like there are some designers that are not designers, I'm going to get in trouble. But like it is.
Well, like, you don't think that a designer could hire out the technical side that they don't do?
I absolutely think they can, but I don't think that unless you went to design school or you have been in some sort of design education, don't think you're a designer. I think you're a decorator.
Ooh, hot take.
I know
Hot
that
take.
it's a very hot take. It's a very hot take. It's a very hot take. But I have worked for people who like, they don't know kitchen clearances. And
Yeah, or
they're
even know to
like,
look.
like they don't even know that that's a consideration that we need to be concerned
Right.
about. And as a junior designer, you're like, whoa, this is not to code. Like, how are we here? That's the piece that I'm like, I don't. And maybe what it is like really what used to be considered interior design is now kind of considered interior architecture. And what used to
Yeah.
be
That's what
considered
I
interior
think.
decoration is now interior design.
Ooh, that's
Because I think that might be what it is.
Yeah.
Like decorator sounds
yes.
so demeaning, and that is not at all what I mean. It's just there's two types of education. Like
Our
one
language
is
has
field
shifted.
exactly. Yeah. And
But
I
also
think
like
I've
knowing your
learned
limits, like
yep.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Like I'm not going to try to do like architectural stuff. Like there's just no way. I'm not going to do exterior landscaping either. Like I have opinions on it, but I'm not
sure.
going to get in there.
I like to call
Yeah.
myself the creative director of the whole house. So I like to get my little fingers in everything. But you're right. I'm not a landscape designer. I don't know everything.
Like you wouldn't know where to put the drainage in the yard or something. If they're like,
Absolutely
How
not.
did you
I can
There's a
tell you
place-
what's a
Yeah.
pretty, pretty
Yeah.
flower and what's a pretty plant and where it should go. But the gas lines and irrigation and all of that needs to be left to the professionals.
Or
yeah.
even like how many of these plants to put in and make sure they space properly so
And
they
like
grow.
light and all of that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Think-
not my wheelhouse.
I'm
by any
still
means.
reflecting on what you said though about how like the language has shifted of like
Yeah.
what was just being an interior designer is now like interior architecture. That
Mhm.
that the wording for that shifted itself higher
Yeah.
and into more complex, like, because we're truly, if you're working in interiors, a lot of design programs if you're just looking at design schools, a lot of them do spend a lot of time focusing on architectural
a ton
considerations.
of time. Exactly. Like our program was called interior architecture. And when I'm pitching myself to clients, I use that verbiage because I feel like interior design doesn't mean as much as it used to. Like 20, 30 years ago, if you were an interior designer, you did know how to do those construction aspects. Now, if you're an interior designer, you may or may not.
Right.
But if you're an interior architecture, you absolutely do. So I think that's what it is. And I'm absolutely going to get skinned alive. But there's a place for every single person in this industry. It's just... To my point earlier, the designer who clearly bit off more than she can chew, she did not go to design school. She was not concerned about the really, really, really important engineering and architectural aspects of this house. They were concerned about finishes and fixtures. And those are two different things entirely. They both need to be handled, but one needs, like, that level of project needs a certain level of expertise.
Yeah, just to know when I think that is part of it, is we get excited, we want to be involved, we jump in, but we don't, especially if you're like a solo practitioner, you're not bringing on a more senior person. You're not going to bring on a senior interior architect to one project to help you necessarily.
No.
You know,
for a
like
kitchen.
that wouldn't be your first inclination. So you get in a little bit too deep and think I'll learn as I go, and that it can be really dangerous. So there are knowing your limits.
There's room for learning as you go, but I think it needs to be under someone who's not learning as they go.
I'd love that. Yes.
Or like have support from somebody who is doing the drawings and knows
someone.
Even if you're just bringing on a freelancer with an architectural background, like there are people who will do that stuff on a contract basis.
Absolutely. We've done that. I mean, we will, in the city of Chicago, like we bring an architect in, we do the drawings, we bring an architect in, they do notes and they wet stamp, and then we take it from there. Like I would never dream of, I think that there's always going to be a point where you have to bring in someone who knows more than you, and knowing when and if to do that is the difference between a professional and not. Like just because we don't know everything doesn't mean that we're bad at our jobs.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not going to get in there and do engineering or anything.
No.
You're going to create magic in another way that is not going to, it's not going to be those things. You're still, and there's like maybe part of that is our ego that gets in the way of it.
Absolutely.
Part of it is like our self-confidence of not, if a designer has imposter syndrome, like all of these things mess with that reality that we're dealing with here.
Well,
for
and
sure.
I'll tell you on this 10 million job I keep referencing, there are so many things I don't know. Like so many things I don't know. But they're covered by somebody else's job.
Right.
So like when we're talking
There's a
about low
team.
voltage, like I'm an advocate for dumb homes. I think if it's a home, it should not be a low voltage system. But like I had to study what low voltage was and why it's necessary. And that piece of it is not something you are taught in design school, not something you think you're going to need to know. But they're coming to me and asking me, well, what should the low voltage system look like? I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, so there's pieces that, you obviously have to keep up with your education. But at the end of the day, there's somebody else who's the expert the buck stops with them, not with me.
Yeah, explain it. I unfortunately know about low voltage systems because I have a 1961 and it's so great when not really. One
It's
button
terrible.
gets stuck and the whole house doesn't work anymore. But I'm sure they've improved.
We have low voltage at my parents' house, and every time it gets struck by lightning, they don't have anything for multiple days. And they live in South Georgia, so there's hurricanes like constantly.
There's lightning involved.
Yeah, always. So I can't recommend a low voltage system, that's for sure.
I know, and then everybody keeps recommending it. I've got like a double height. There's like a double height atrium in a project that I'm working on, and while we're doing work with the architect, it's that same consideration of like, they're going to need shades. So I'm going to have to bring in low voltage someone now to tell us like, where does the hub need to go? I need a little cabinet or something nearby. It can't be more than this far away. And that's just one level of what I'm trying. That's only one little thing. And granted, there's other smart home stuff that they're trying to incorporate. And I don't want to be I don't want to be the get off my lawn type of like, don't do this kind of person. And I'm also like, I really don't want to be the person to learn about all of this. I just need to, you come in, you tell me where.
Do what you need to do. Yeah, exactly.
Tell me what size cabinet you need. Do I need ventilation over there? Let's talk this out now before it's too far gone and I have to put some ugly box somewhere I didn't want to or Photoshop it out. Like, that's all I'm really worried about. But yeah, the Roomba cave that it needs to have, like, I really don't.
Not my concern.
I don't really, I'll let the cabinet maker weigh in on that a little bit.
Above my pay grade.
Yeah, I just don't want, it's going to be cool when it's done and they'll like it, which is great. But I don't need to, I'm not needing to get that deep on it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think knowing when to pull back and being like, whatever you think, it's the only way to survive. Yeah. At least for me. Because for a long time I was like, no, I need to make every single decision and I need to have an answer. And it's fine. I'll stick to my.
Well, because really you're like,
Yeah.
you're offering the client more by bringing in an expert that you'll never be an expert on low voltage or any kind of electrical. Like you shouldn't be. Like that's too generalist.
How could you? I couldn't hold all that information in my brain. Like it starts leaking out after a certain point.
Yes. Okay, so I want to go back to TikTok. Like,
yeah, I realized I didn't answer your question.
No, it's okay. I don't remember what I asked. Are you still seeing clients coming from it?
Yes, we see ebbs and flows. Like there will be a big wave and then it will sort of die down. And it definitely correlates to if our videos hit the For You page or not.
Oh.
But I would say that we do definitely still see, it's where all of our clients come from social. I would say 10 to 20% are referrals, but I don't really like referrals.
Oh, why is that?
Unless they're like just my favorite client ever. Well, a couple of reasons. One, at least in Chicago, they tend to tell each other everything. And so like if I had a job 3 years ago, my pricing is most definitely different. Things are going to cost a different amount. So it seems like they're more so hoping they're going to have their friends experience when like maybe the conditions are not of their friend's experience. Sometimes it'll be like maybe their friend has a lot more money than them. Maybe their friend has whatever. And so that piece I find difficult. I also think they come in with preconceived ideas. We have, and here's what I'll say. We certainly have like a group of clients who I adore, love. And if we hear that someone referred them, they're top of our list. But there's also a group of clients that like we will not take referrals from at all because they tend to be friends with people like them.
Like a bad circle.
Yeah, it's the wrong client again.
Yeah. And we're trying to avoid getting in bed with, clients that just don't seem to get us. Also, the biggest reason is social. They being the potential client are betting on me and they're attached to me. Whereas a referral, they want their house done. They don't want me. And sometimes they do, but more so they want someone who will finish the job on time, on budget. And like we do come with that, but I really want clients who want what we do best, not to be their assistant. And it feels like that's sometimes what it ends up being.
Yeah, like I'm looking for an electrician. Who do you use? And then they give a name versus I found your whatever website and I'm so like enamored and this looks just like how I want my house to look.
And that's when you get wait lists and all of that because they're willing to wait for you, not for someone who can do the job. And that's also why I love a wait list because those people who are willing to wait want to work with me, not work with anybody.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And they'll move on.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The people who don't like care as much about working with us, they'll move on, which is great. It wouldn't have been the perfect fit anyway.
That's interesting. Yeah. I have a friend that gets the majority of her work from referrals and she has great clients, but I do see her struggling with this like large group of folks coming that she's then feels a little bit obligated and it's harder because she wants to like do the original refer good and not, like you're saying, they're not all qualified clients to the level that she needs to be at. And then it gets tricky.
And then you feel like you kind of owe the person that sent you the referral and you're like, but maybe it's not a good fit. So I kind of feel like I can't say no because that person stuck their neck out for me. Like it really, it's difficult. And I feel like for a long time I was in that cycle. For me, what really like broke the straw that broke the camel's back was it felt like there was expectations of me or the people who were doing the referring wanted something from me in return. And like if they were a previous client and they wanted to do phase 2 because they referred so many people, they want a major discount. And like, would I have potentially given them a discount because they referred so many people? Sure. But when you're like expecting it or asking for it, or we did a job 5 years ago and you want me to keep your same rates, even though our firm is completely different now. Like those are the things that then there's like a bit of entitlement that comes out when you tell them, actually, we do things differently or whatever it is.
You're like, bitch, I got a wait list.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't. And actually, I did tell a contractor to suck my dick the other day because
and some of them need to hear that.
Exactly. I was in a budget meeting for my client and I felt like the landscape architect was really taking her for a ride on her budget. And I said so. I was like, how are we $750,000 in and we have no plans? Like, that's just hardscape. How are we here? How did we get here? You're supposed to be a good steward of her money, and you're clearly not. Like, what are we doing? And then I guess the builder was very unhappy with that. And so when the contractor that works for the builder tried to refer me to another job, he said no, because I don't back them up enough. And so I very kindly said, thank you so much, but we have a wait list, so I don't need your work anyway, and you can suck my dick. And I told my client I did that, and she said, well, while he's at it, he can suck mine too.
Yes! So, everyone gets it.
All the dicks are getting sucked.
No, they really think they're in control sometimes.
They think they know everything. And I'm like, sir, don't fucking play with me.
Not that kind of money either. You weren't fighting over $5,000 here. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they want you to back them up.
$750,000 and there's no plans. What are we doing here?
No.
Like, I would not be doing my job if I wasn't sticking up for her.
Could you imagine if you had just done finishes only for $750,000 and they didn't have furniture to sit on yet? You would be laughed out of town.
Laughed out of the industry.
There's no way.
There's no way. And that's what it is. Why aren't they being held to the same
standard
that we are?
Because no one's ever stood up.
Well, and because they're men, and so they're not as much as expected of them. Also, I should be saying straight men. That should be implied in what I'm saying.
Maybe Sean always assumes.
I mean, I jumped to that, yeah, but I'm also like, I don't know. Some gay men are trash too. Let's be real. Like, let's just be real.
I think from like the general consensus, it's mainly straight men.
Yeah.
In my experience, because they're just the ones
And they
that are
don't like
typically
being
working in
told what to
construction
do.
too.
They don't want to be. They think they're always the biggest voice in the room, and it's just like, unfortunately, what you're demonstrating is you sometimes have to be the bigger voice in the room and like remind them that you're not just going to walk away or avoid conflict with everything.
You can't fuck with me.
Yeah, does it suck that it has to be done that way? Yes, it does. But they also operate the same way among their vendors and each other. They're doing the swinging their dicks around.
I never heard another word after I said that. Also, he told me that he was calling me from Tahiti and he had to take a minute off of his vacation.
Okay, White Lotus, get out of here.
I was like, okay, so I actually want to run you over with my car. Like, fuck you. It's 8:30 p.m. in Chicago. We're screaming at each other and you're in Tahiti and had to take an hour off? Please.
Yeah, boo-hoo. Sorry about it.
With your money you made off of that project.
Exactly.
So Sean brought this up earlier. We were having a conversation, just him and I and a couple other designers, about social media. And I remember you saying too on your show that you don't always photograph all of your projects, but you are doing video for social media.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, what are you doing?
So we're doing walkthroughs and it's so easy. Literally, it's just an iPhone. Like, we don't even use like a fancy camera. We don't have anyone come and like film fancy. What I've been doing is flying whoever's filming for me, myself, and then one of my junior designers who's ever on the job. We style. But while I would typically have a stylist, if it was like a full photo shoot, we style ourselves because things in motion aren't as important, obviously. Yeah. And so that saves money right there. And then it's like, obviously, if they work for me directly, like, I just fly them down and then we film. And I walk through each room. I explain what I did in each room, how it started, maybe inspiration from the client, just any sort of like little tidbit. Anytime you're watching like a Homeworthy or anything like that, it's the same direction they give you. Like, think of a couple of like funny little tales and then otherwise give people details and specs. I just put on a cute little outfit, walk through, tell everyone everything, pop them up on TikTok. And then those are always the ones that hit the For You page and do well and get us work, like always. It's insane. And it's kind of a production, obviously. Like, it's not just like you're on a job site and you're taking some quick videos. And I will say, obviously, like, once things are done is when it does best. The in-between work still doesn't do as well on TikTok as it does on Instagram, just because the audience doesn't fully seem to understand it unless it's I shouldn't say understand it. They don't appreciate it or want it unless it's tied to an end result.
Yeah.
Is what I've found.
They need like gratification.
Exactly. Whereas on Instagram, you can pop up like an in progress video and you'll get more engagement. But really the reason for that is because most of the people who are engaging with it are other designers, not clients.
Yeah.
100%.
Or people that are actually following you. Like, I don't actually go to my page. I don't, whatever the one is, of the following page. I never go to it. I only am on the For You page. Same. It's just like roulette. Like, surprise me. What are you going to
do? Something new and fresh.
I know everything about Tate McRae right now. Like, why? I don't know.
No, I love it. I love that it gets to show you like so many different interests and ideas and thoughts. I mean, there's a reason it's my favorite app. That's for sure. Yeah. I also do realize that it's like a little silly considering it might be taken away, but it is the thing
at any moment.
At any moment. I was on Instagram for years and felt like it was so oversaturated and it just wasn't really doing what I needed it to. And then I hired a marketing director that was like 22 and she was like, we're going to start making TikToks. And I was like, okay, if you say so. And I think part of it was just timing. Like, I was one of the first, like you said, real interior designers on there that have like real clients and went to school and that whole thing. So it just was like way less saturation. So people were able to find me easier. But now I would say people have started to start catching on, which is great. Like, I love to see other people's walkthroughs. I like getting to see things in motion. Like, I really appreciate that type of content. And so I think because that's what designers have started to pump out, which is, good.
What do you How do you feel like the audiences are different though? Like, do you find that TikTok's like meaner or?
No, Instagram's
Really?
meaner. Instagram's meaner.
Really?
Reels is so mean. Oh my God.
Like if you
I've
go
had a
viral.
video get stuck in Reels and I was in purgatory for literal months. I like asked our social media advisor if I could delete it because I was like, I need them to stop fucking telling me I'm wrong because I'm not wrong. TikTok, that's happened one time. But for me, TikTok, I'm able to be like, y'all literally don't know anything.
Yeah,
So shut
right.
up. Like it's that audience for me. I'm like,
You don't respect it as
you don't
much.
know anything. So like, I don't
Yeah.
care what you have to say, really. There's one video that does like pop back up all the time, and I'll have people be like, "You're never going to be able to get appliances in there," and it's like, "Babe, it was done 3 years ago. The appliances are in. Everything's
already
good.
done.
Like, don't
Oh,
worry your
God.
sweet little heart about it." So that I do think occasionally, but what I've been shocked about on TikTok is the level of money and the age of people. Like when I first started this, I couldn't even say the word TikTok in a room of other designers. I would get roasted. And still it sometimes happens where like, they'll be like, oh, I guess we all have to join the teen app. And it's like, well, I
not
guess
gonna
you
go
do if you want to
dancing.
wait list.
I know.
Like,
I don't want to go on there and dance. It's like, oh,
that's
grandma.
not, you don't need to. Okay. It's fine. But fine. Don't. Better for me.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it is, I mean, I was at a Scalamandre panel and they looked me in the eye and said, we will never join TikTok. And I said, okay, don't, but they will never buy your product. Like,
They won't.
I don't know how you're not seeing this correlation, but that's fine. I do think that like I said, my Fortune 500 client came from TikTok. We've had clients New York, San Francisco, Naples, all over the country. That's where all of our out of state jobs come from is TikTok.
Are you seeing a like demo in common?
Like a demographic of this is what they all share, or
is it younger or not really?
I mean, it kind of depends. We had clients in Park City. They were young, like 26 and 27. And yeah.
TikTok famous?
I wouldn't say TikTok famous, but he runs like a social media empire, essentially.
Okay.
And they were actually some of my favorite clients because they respected me, which is
they're scared of
be
you.
the bare minimum. But like, yeah, I think it was a little bit. They were also scared of me. I had never had clients younger than me before, ever. That was my first time.
Just wait.
So that I think was like an interesting learning experience. Our client in New York City, she was like 50 and, a doctor and found me on TikTok just from scrolling.
Yeah.
We had clients in Naples that were like 32 to 35. She, just like scrolled across one of our walkthroughs. The Fortune 500 client found me on a video about Facebook Marketplace fines.
oh, wow.
I made a video about the Facebook Marketplace items that were in my home, and that's how she found me, crazy enough, and hired me from that.
She's like, I have millions of dollars. This is a perfect match.
Yeah. Yeah. She said
Amazing.
that she felt like she wanted someone who was going to be like she didn't grow up with money, and so she's new money, but in a way that like knows how to have it and like is trying to build something for herself and her daughters and like not just get money and immediately have it go out the door. And so I think she felt that because I wasn't a snob about where I was getting things, that's not to imply I use the word snob because like I love TJ Maxx. I love like shit that designers really shouldn't necessarily like. And so I will buy things from anywhere and put it next to like genre something that's literally from someone's grandmother's house. So I think she was able to be like, oh, okay, this is someone who can do like the full tilt, but will consider coming from a bunch of different places rather than just like Holly Hunt.
Well, and it
Because
sounds
I
like
think that's what she was being given.
She was the one that was experiencing not a great fit.
Yeah, and I think the designer was just, kind of old school, taking her to the mart, taking her to like, $60,000 sectionals. And it's just like, I don't design that way personally. Yeah. And so, it turned out to be a better fit.
Okay, let's talk for a minute about the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Confessions of an Interior Designer. I feel like I wish we thought of this idea because it's like there's so many stories we can't tell that
Right?
I know personally I have clients that listen to this show that I think is funny because it's not really for them, but also like obviously it's public. But we also have a private Patreon that we try to do a little more dish with. But the format of the show I think is just really fun. Can you explain it?
Thank you. Absolutely. So I just had the idea that I wanted to hear about stories and thoughts and feelings from designers that hadn't like made it, quote unquote, hadn't, or if they had, they weren't focusing on how they made it, more so about the things we talk about at happy hour, like when a bunch of designers get together, all the shit that we're telling each other. That was the initial idea, because can't tell you how many times I've been in an event and someone grabs me and goes, oh my God, I have to tell you what happened. Like it is every time I go anywhere. Every designer has a story. We'll go to dinner, we'll pass them around. And I felt like there's so much interest in interior design and interior designers and with HGTV and all of that, but we're seen as like school teachers or something like that. We have to be this like perfect, like prim and proper Betty Draper. And it just didn't, to what I knew other designers as, it didn't make any sense. And I mean, I love all of those podcasts, Business of Home and Luann Nygar's podcast and all of the ones that are like focusing on business. But when I started, I would listen and change my business model every 5 fucking minutes because I didn't know what I was doing. And I just was like, oh, well, that person's doing well. They must be doing something right. So when I like got a little bit further into my career and I realized like, oh, actually no one knows anything and everyone's really just trying their best. And yeah, some people have made it, but even they have crazy stories of things that have happened. The craziest stuff while working in LA. And I was there for not that long of a time. And so I felt like there's gotta
like your pedicure story like kills me. I would just told that again to somebody. I think I know who it was, but I'm not.
You definitely do. What's funny is that I had one of the girls who interned me with at that job, and I hadn't told her I had told the story, and she was like, "I have a confession," and starts giving the same story, and I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, so you have to listen to the show.
This happens a lot, I guess.
But you have to listen to the show, but just Caroline. Yeah, you had it was your internship in LA, right?
Yeah, my internship in LA and my first day. And I saw some like movement under my boss's desk, who is very famous, like very famous. And I was like, it's a rescue dog. She has tons of rescue dogs. And she's getting a pedicure under
You
under
saw like
her
a little, like a person like
little
crawl
Asian
out?
woman crawl out from under her desk. And I looked at everybody and they all just were like, no,
business as usual.
Business as
this
usual.
Is normal.
At the stand-up meetings, that's when she was getting her pedicure and manicure. I mean, it's kind of genius. It's just, I felt so small town. I was like, this can't be real. This cannot be. I mean, this is 2013, 2014. So like, I'm just, I didn't even know someone could come and give you a pedicure, much like
Like, I respect the multitasking. I don't know about making someone crawl under a table.
Yeah, like the idea of being on a conference call while getting like my glam done or something. I'm like, okay, kind of. I'm not. I get it. Like, how much can you get done in a day? But yeah,
but that's at least. I mean, that's like somebody hiding under a desk. It just has like Monica Lewinsky kind of like. There's
implications.
Something.
Yes,
yeah.
There's some implications.
It got weird real. Yeah, it gets weird real quick.
But she wasn't hiding it. You just didn't see the
No. I just had no idea. I was in the back of the meeting and I had no idea. Clearly, this was like something she did every 2 weeks because it was like so normal in the office. And I will say, she is my favorite person I have ever worked for. Like when I tell you the creativity that eases out of like one of her pores is more than anyone else I've ever met. I've seen her scrap entire, almost complete jobs because she just saw that someone else did something similar. Like she is so in the pursuit of making good art.
Like a true creative.
A true creative.
And like she has to be 5 years ahead. Like, yeah.
Oh, and I mean, when I tell you I had never even heard of or seen this fabric, and she got a whiff that it was like coming down the pipeline in a couple years. And she was like, no, We are
Oh,
completely
God.
redoing it. I've seen her scrap presentations the day of the meeting because in the middle of the night, she decided she had a better idea in her. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you don't see everybody doing. And it's crazy. It's
That's where she gets
crazy.
paid what
But
she does.
there's a reason she is the level that she is and is genuinely the most talented person I've ever worked for. Like, she is a
Amazing.
powerhouse. Absolutely.
Okay, so the premise of your show is you have designers write in anonymously. So also designers, if you have any amazing stories,
Please send me an email, please.
yeah. And then you guys like have these, you read out the confession of the designer of what happened.
Yeah. So we have different designers, stylists, whoever, someone in their industry come on each week. And we lightly theme the stories and questions to their expertise. So like if they're in social, we tried to do something that aligns with that. Same with, I just had a photographer on. And so we did a story about someone who was sued for posting an Instagram photo that wasn't theirs. So we try to sort of, and it's actually a juicy one. The photographer and I kind of disagree, which I've never disagreed with a guest on the pod. So it'll be curious to see how that goes.
Can't wait.
Yeah. I ask the real questions. I ask about rights and why they have rights to our work. And
God
I get
damn it. This is like Sean and I's like, this is the hill we're going to die on.
Well, they didn't really give me a very good answer.
So no, they never do.
There's not a good answer, it doesn't seem.
Legally, it's not in our, like, it's not on our site. I feel like the laws need to be rewritten.
My pitch was, if you're always getting press from that one designer, give them a credit for the amount. Like, Lux pays $500 to $1,000 an image. If you have 14 pages, that they're making $6,000 a day from me, and then another $10,000 in images that we created all together. How does that?
It does
plus
not.
Years of my blood, sweat, and tears.
Literally, and all of that. Yeah. So we'll get into all of that. But we try to do 1 to 2 confessions. It kind of depends on how much the guest has to tell us in the beginning. And then we do some listener questions, and then we give people penance, which was kind of fun. The whole podcast, Confessions of an Interior Designer, it's a play on, I grew up Catholic, like very Catholic, went to Catholic school, gave confession, did the whole thing. And so when I was in 8th grade, my priest slept with my friend's mom, and I decidedly became not religious anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah, when we were being confirmed, like our confirmation priest slept with my friend's mom.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. So he was also our soccer coach. Don't worry, he just got moved to Florida. He's still a priest.
Wow.
So decidedly not religious anymore. And so when I was coming up with this idea, I was like, that could be kind of fun to like play on Catholicism and the act of contrition, which is giving confession. And so it's been really fun and kind of healing. Sounds very like healing, but in a fun way, it's been fun to like make fun of. How many times can I say fun in one sentence? It's been interesting to make fun of that because it's not something that like, that's very sacrilegious, but it's been kind of freeing for me.
But it's not serious. It's not serious. Like,
I mean, I don't literally think like Christians should die or anything. Like, it's just like everyone can do whatever they want. I just don't really buy it necessarily anymore. And so it felt like, well, now I can be the priest and people can confess to me. And yeah, it's been really fun. I've gotten to have a lot of really good conversations with people I wouldn't have connected with. And we are doing round tables, which is really fun so far. They're just in Chicago, but they're closed door meetings where people are talking about everything. Like we had someone say, I don't have enough work. We had someone say I have too much work. We connected them together and created a downline. Like that piece of this has also been really fun to sort of create more local community. And like we were talking about earlier, there's enough work to go around for everyone. There's no need for it to be this competitive.
Yes.
And if anything, I feel like I'm referring out more than we're taking jobs. Like I'm handing out people's names more than we're accepting jobs. So I think there's room for that in our industry, and we just all need to be okay with sharing some of the wealth.
Agreed.
Yeah, I have a mastermind. It's just private there's 5 of us that are local designers and technically competitors, but it's so helpful just to like all like know what we're charging, what would you do for this, share resources, and just we're in a text thread every day. Like just, I don't know, like we talk about it all the time on the show. Like, could not do this job without support, like
Your
of other
people.
designers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know. It is really, and I've found that other designers want to help. Like typically,
Yeah.
most people I've met, especially when they get to a certain level in their career, they can't take all the work they're being given. They want to be able to give it out to other people. And so knowing that we're all different sides of the same coin, and there's like a place in each niche for all of us. I think it also just makes this job a lot more fun. Like I have colleagues, but they're people who work for me. So like at the end of the day, I want to be able to talk to someone who owns the firm and does all the same things, has all the same challenges that I do. Which I know you guys do that too with Hottie Hangouts and everything. That's a big part of y'all's thing, which is amazing.
It's huge. And we're all in different parts of our careers. And we all, like a lot of us this is our second career for a lot of us, and we come with different backgrounds. So I have
absolutely
different expertise than Sean does, just that carry over and transferred. So we all have that. And I don't know, it's immensely helpful.
I know that Sean mentioned that, or I read somewhere that there's like a background in finance. Rebecca, forgive me, I don't know what your background was, but I did not have anything before this. So like I have no other skills, not a single one, not a single one. And so I really like find it so empowering and brave. It sounds pandering, and I don't mean it that way. Like genuinely, to be successful in another career and then to choose to do this when you found success somewhere else, it's really impressive.
Oh,
I think naive was the word.
I think I might give it a different word going back, but I definitely maybe the audacity. I have a lot of audacity.
Yeah,
I do too. It helps. It really helps.
And maybe a little bit of delusion has helped me over the years. Of just
delusion is absolutely necessary. There's no way to get through it without it.
Like many white men, I felt, why can't I do that?
What about me?
Yeah. How can I make this about me? No, but it's definitely been something that I look back and I'm like, God, I could make my money so much easier in any other industry, and why don't I want to do that? Like, why can I not do it? And I still don't want to. I still don't want to go back to like wealth management and finance and all of that. I don't want to. So yeah, it's coming from somewhere for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, and it really, obviously means that it's something that you love, which I think is worth the turmoil it takes to get there.
And it's addicting. I think it's a little bit of like, okay, this next project, what could it be? And then like when it transpires to be something you didn't imagine and it's amazing, like it just like keeps you on the hook for the next.
Well, and seeing the final result and seeing your client be happy, there is no drug like it. Like there is nothing like it. And I feel like in finance or in anything, I can imagine, especially working with a certain type of client, like there's nothing that's good enough. And like, if you
100%.
make someone's home beautiful, even if they're generally pretty ungrateful, it's hard for them to not be grateful because it's where they spend all of their time. But I would have a hard time feeling like any sense of purpose if I was just making rich people rich. Sure.
Yeah, making rich people more money and helping them avoid things that you're like, but you could just pay this.
You should probably just pay this though.
Yeah, it's like, I know you can literally hire any attorney you want and make it go away, but it's like, could just be
playgrounds. Don't we want schools?
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's definitely something that you eventually, for me, I realized, okay, I'm having a crisis of conscience. Like I just can't do this. But it's been and I, in the same way, isn't that part of our job now anyway? But it's like, well, at least I'm making something out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're leaving the world more beautiful than you found it, which I think is something that like speaking for myself, I can go to bed at night being like, okay, there is fundamental change happening, however small it is, but I am making a difference in someone's life, and that can keep you going for a while.
And hopefully that makes them happy to make a difference in other people's lives.
And just makes their, and I love the idea of thinking about, young children when we design their homes and like when they look back on their childhood memories, imagining your work alongside their childhood memories. There is something so special about that to me. Also with like the touching and feeling and like leaving behind a piece of every person that's been in that home with like the materials you choose. It's lovely. And I do think it's very meaningful.
That's a fantastic place for us to leave the hotties too and tell them. You should tell Caroline. Tell everybody where they can find you. All things Caroline Turner.
So our main accounts at Caroline Turner Interiors on Instagram and TikTok, and then at Confessions of ID on Instagram and TikTok. And then my website is www.carolineturner.co. And if you go to our confessions page, you can click in there and make a confession, leave a question, send me a note, whatever. If you want to be on the next season, you can also send me an email and we'll try to get something scheduled.
Yay.
Thank you guys so much. This has been beyond fun.
Oh, thank you. We had an amazing time. And you gave us quite a few juicy tidbits to listen to that when they come out on your show too. And I can't wait to hear
You
more.
guys, they're
Thank you so
juicy.
much.
The confessions are juicy. And like the only way anyone would share some of them is if they were anonymous. So
Anonymous.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, people like threaten my life. They're like, this will stay anonymous, right? I'm like, I promise.
I
promise you.
I'm not trying to get anyone sued.
I really wish you could have follow-up questions, though. There's so many that I'm like, I have questions.
So many. And I've actually emailed people back asking questions just for my own personal needs. Rarely do we hear back. I feel like they're like, I'm one and done.
Yeah, they're like,
but maybe one day we'll do like a Where Are They Now if we can ever figure it out.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
That would be great.
Oh, I'm here for a retrospective.
Thank you, Caroline.
Amazing. I've just loved it.
Thank you so much. And until next time,
stay hot, designers.
Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.